Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church in Columbia, South Carolina, where we're part of the ELCA. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. A few years ago, I was at the county courthouse for a proceeding that I was involved in. It wasn't about me, but I needed to testify. As I waited for my case, another case came up for a man who was accused of stealing another man's refrigerator. The individual pled not guilty. He admitted that he had loaded the refrigerator on his truck and strapped it in, but he hadn't left the yard when he was caught, so in his mind he hadn't stolen it yet. Needless to say, that defense didn't work. Courtroom dramas seem to fascinate us. Whether it's Dateline or episodes of Law and Order, we are compelled to watch to the very end to see what the verdict will be, and then we debate whether or not we agree with it. Or maybe you remember the trial of O.J. Simpson. Our response to that verdict divided us largely along racial lines, with one side agreeing that he was not guilty and the other side convinced that he was guilty, all by looking at the same evidence. We want to know how it all comes out. Well, this week we've been going through our own courtroom drama as we have made our way through the tiny book of Malachi, the last book of the Old Testament. You may remember that the book is structured as a lawsuit against God. The people accuse God of forsaking God's people and abandoning the covenant. What we have seen as the trial has gone on is that the roles were exactly reversed. God had been faithful, and it was the people who had turned away from God. In the last few verses of Malachi, we get the verdict. The first thing to note is that there is a jury involved. Chapter 3, verse 16 comments that there's a group of people who have remained faithful to God. The Bible calls them those who revered the Lord. And Malachi describes them as conferring together about the case, that God listened, and a book of remembrance was written, cataloging all that God had indeed done for the people. It's fascinating that when the verdict is handed down, the final words in the Old Testament are words of grace. They shall be mine, says the Lord of hosts, my special possession on the day when I act, and I will spare them as parents spare the children who serve them. And later, but for you who revere my name, the Son of Righteousness shall rise with healing in its wings. You shall go out leaping like calves from the stall, and you shall tread down the wicked, for they will be ashes under the soles of your feet on the day when I act, says the Lord of hosts. The judgment is coming, but again it's not a destroying judgment, but a refining one. God will burn away all that is impure and far from God, and what remains will be God's kingdom set up in glory and majesty. Even more, God promises in the final verses to send a messenger before all this to give a final warning to the people. The messenger will make things right, restoring relationships here on earth to be like they should be. Relationships of love, honor, and respect, like we are supposed to have as we live out God's love together. The special grace is that this day is sometime in the future. We have time. We have another chance. Maybe that's the way to think about God. God is the God of second chances. God endlessly seeks to bring us back, to enfold us in warmth and love. I'm sure you know the phrase that God is slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love. That's just what we need. I'm counting on it. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.